Talking all things salary cap here on this edition of Seattle Seahawks Today by Chat Sports. Tyler Jeltz, your fearless leader, here with you. Thanks for joining us. I have some good news and I have some bad news that we will address coming up on today's show. But first, folks, my dad, some of you have seen him on this very show before. If you go back to the Cooper Kupp live stream when he signed with the Seahawks, he's coming to town this week. It's been a while since I've had my dad around, and here's what I want to do, folks. I got a little challenge for the 12s out there since you guys know my dad a bit. For every new subscriber we get off today's video, I'm going to buy my dad a shot. And let's see if we can get Dad a little turn a bit and get the week started on the right note. He gets into town Thursday. So let's see how many that turns into. I don't care if it's 5, 10, 20, 50. The more the merrier, and it'll make for a better time with Dad. So help me out. Subscribe to the channel for daily Seahawks coverage, our news and rumors, live shows 3 days a week. We're also bringing you breaking news, Q&A mailbags, and more right here on Seattle Seahawks Today. Subscribe now for free, youtube.com/SeahawksTV, and we'll get started with today's show. So the salary cap situation, we have an update after the post-June 1 designation. And that date is important in the NFL because that is when we see the numbers adjust accordingly of players that you've designated as post-June 1 cuts at one point and how the process changes. You get an updated salary cap number on both the salary cap as is, and then the dead money that you are paying out as well that counts against you. So what do those numbers look like? Let's start with the good news for Seattle. The updated cap space is at $31.21 million. That's the ninth most of any team in the NFL, according to the folks at overthecap.com. And to give you a perspective, heading into this offseason, Seattle was, depending on who you asked, somewhere between $20 and $30 million over the cap. So they have flipped the cap space situation upside down, and they have plenty of money to their disposal right now. So that's the good news. Now here's the bad news, folks. With the adjustments they've made to the cap and their roster, it has come at a price, a very expensive one at that. The dead cap money that they are paying is the third most of any team in the NFL at $67.44 million, according to overthecap.com. And we'll explain in a moment, give you an explainer on what the dead money means and all that, and where that money is exactly going. But to put it in the simplest of terms, it's not ideal. The cap space has come a long way. It really has. This was a tough situation that John Schneider found himself in going into 2025. And with the changes that they've made to this roster from top to bottom, it presented some challenges. And so to be at this point, it's pretty remarkable considering where they were at not too long ago. But with that said, you don't want to just keep that money there sitting around. I personally would like to see them use it and make a big move of sorts, whether it's help at the offensive line spot, maybe it's another edge rusher, maybe it's a corner. You have that money to your disposal. You can still make one more big-time move to better this roster. Maybe it's right now, maybe it's closer to training camp or the trade deadline, but I think it would be silly just to let that money sit and not do anything with it. The dead money, however, is just brutal. I mean, we cannot beat around the bush on this. It is pretty bad that they have all this dead money that is counting against them to this point. And you may be wondering, okay, what is the dead money and how does this affect Seattle here? Well, Seaside Joe, who does a really good job covering the Seahawks with his Substack channel, doing work independently, he said this. He had a good explainer about this. A salary cap hit a team incurs when a player is released, traded, or retires, and the remaining guaranteed money on their contract becomes a cost to the team, even though the player is no longer on the roster. So the best example here is DK Metcalf. even though he's playing for the Pittsburgh Steelers now, the dead money, because of how his contract was structured, still counts $21 million against the cap for Seattle here in 2025. This is a bit messy of what the Hawks are having to deal with. And we'll go over some more numbers here in just a second. But all in all, big picture, I think this is going to work out okay. Seattle has made some tough decisions, but I think that it's a short-term sacrifice for a long-term payout. And we'll have more on that coming up momentarily. How would you grade the Seahawks offseason so far? It's our pinned comment today. Weigh in, let us know what you think. Type A, B, C, D, or F. What do you think of the job John Schneider has done? Tell me in the comments section below. Now, what's happening here is that the Seahawks are betting on that they have made the right decisions when it comes to this dead cap, that all in all, it is going to be worth it for them to take on all this money as far as that goes. And to kind of put it in perspective, this is not just a one-year process. This goes back to 2024 as well, as last year, the Seahawks carried $58 million in dead cap money. And then you look at where they're at now, they are carrying $67 million. So you combine that, that's $125 million combined over the last two seasons of players that are not even wearing the uniform. With that said, they are getting younger with how they're changing up this roster. When you've seen faces like Jamal Adams, Quandre Diggs, Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf, Geno Smith, Dre'Mont Jones, and others move on, almost all of them have been replaced by younger players that they've brought in. So this has been a big retooling, a reshifting of this roster. And it's also saying that John Schneider is not afraid to admit mistakes here. You go back to last offseason, and there was a lot of excitement when they brought in Dodson and Baker. And what do you know, by the halfway point in the season, they moved on from both those guys and took on dead money cap hits because they felt confident in Ernest Jones and Tyrese Knight. And even though they took on the dead money, with what the production they got from Ernest Jones and Tyrese Knight taking over those linebacker roles, it ended up paying off for them. So it is a humbling, it is a different type of idea of how they're approaching this roster with John Schneider in full control compared to Pete Carroll. We've heard all sorts of reports that Pete Carroll wanted to go a completely different direction with this roster and keep kind of the players that were there compared to what John Schneider has done to basically flip this roster upside down. And now we'll wait and see if it pays off. Here's what we're talking about when it comes to the dead cap leaders of the money that is going other places. We mentioned DK Metcalf at $21 million. That counts for about 7.52% in that dead cap total we're talking about here. Dre'Mont Jones, $14.07 million. That's about 5.04%. Tyler Lockett, his 13.89. That's about 4.98%. Geno Smith at 13.5. That's about 4.84%. And then Rayshon Jenkins at $2.5 million. That's 0.9%. Percent there. And those are just 5 players. There's more players included in the dead cap. That's just the top 5 most. You combine those numbers, and that's $64.96 million. Just those 5 individuals are counting towards 23.28%. That sounds insane, right? You're just saying to yourself, that's a ton of money for guys that are not wearing the uniform, that are not contributing to your team. But there is a method to the madness here of what John is doing with these moves. Whether you agree or disagree, that's one thing. But they have a plan in mind of what they're doing to make this work. Right now, the Seahawks are spending on their current roster $186.6 million against the cap. That's the lowest of any team in the National Football League. All right? They are saving some big-time money with the current players. So what they've done is, hey, we'll move on from players that we don't like, and we're going to find younger and cheaper options, and we're going to position ourselves for the long term to be able to re-sign these guys. And when we get the dead cap players off the books, the money is going to be there. Now, you compare that to other teams across the NFL. The San Francisco 49ers are the next team that is spending the least on their roster at $206.9 million. And yet, with that said, Seattle is spending $20 million less than San Francisco on their own roster. Basically, John Schneider has taken a sledgehammer to this roster over the last couple of seasons, and he's attempted to clean it all up. And we'll see if it works. Last season, I think, was a step in the right direction, going 10-7. But now you've made some even bigger changes than what you made last offseason with swapping out Geno for Sam Darnold, moving on from DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, bringing in Cooper Kupp and MVS, and adding DeMarcus Lawrence, moving on from Dre'Mont Jones. You had an outstanding draft class. We'll see if it works. Now, the reward waiting on the other side. All right? Assuming all goes according to plan here for John Schneider. The Seattle Seahawks next year in 2026, not this upcoming season, 2025, but in 2026, they have about $58.57 million in cap space. That's the eighth most of any team in the NFL, and we expect the salary cap to only go up even further in the coming years ahead. So that number actually might even be more. That's just a projection, courtesy of overthecap.com. And then you go another year further into 2027. Now we're talking all about the Benjamins. We're making it rain in here with $139.59 million in cap space, which is the 10th most in the NFL. So you think about, all right, you're going to start paying some guys here pretty soon. Devin Witherspoon, Charles Cross, just to name a few. And you got to have that money set aside. And the good news is that that money is going to be there to keep these young players and be able to bring in even more players and get this roster in the position you want with the image that John Schneider has in mind here. Now, with that said, it's not guaranteed to work by any stretch of the imagination. But are you feeling good about where this thing is headed? Are the Seahawks headed in the right direction right now? You got two options here. Type Y for yes, in for no. What say you? Tell me in the comments section below. We have new merchandise for Seahawks fans out there. I have a framed Shaun Alexander signed jersey, a printed signed jersey that's already in the frame with free shipping available. And folks, when you check this out, it'll be pretty fascinating to you because the price is not that bad either. This thing is going to look great in the man cave, and you'll get to have a signed jersey of one of the all-time greats in Seattle. I still can't believe he's not in the Pro Football Hall of Fame at this point. But I think this is a great deal, and you got to go see for yourself. It's online right now with free shipping at chatsports.com/Alexander. We also have other Seahawks merchandise available for sale at that same link. Go see for yourself now, chatsports.com/Alexander to get yours today. Now, I know some people disagree with me on this, but that's okay. Diversity of opinion. That's fine. I think this roster is better than what it was last season. The defense has taken tremendous steps forward, and it was already a pretty good defense last year. The offensive line has improved. I think you've improved at the quarterback position. I think things are going well. The roster is better. It is younger as well, significantly. This is still one of the youngest teams in the NFL. You got a lot of players on rookie contracts. And then another part of this as well that I think we need to mention. Everyone's feeling good. The vibes are immaculate in Seattle right now. There are no headaches. You're not having to worry about DK Metcalf And when we found out, after he put in that trade request, oh, wait, that wasn't even the first time he had done that. Besides his antics on the field and all that, and the contract talks and everything, the distractions that were going off the field, you don't have those problems right now. So although you are paying some dead money to DK, and Geno, we know about his contract talks and how frustrated he was for a while. Although you're having to pay that money, and it's not great to have to deal with that dead money for those guys and some of those others, there's not any drama going on right now. And that, to me, you may be saying to yourself, well, we didn't pay Geno and DK. We did save some money there, and we got some draft capital out of it, and we don't have to deal with the headache and the distraction of it as well. That's a positive thing. I think the future is bright. I think John Schneider's got this thing headed in the right direction of where they're going, and I feel confident in saying that. With that said, though, the job is far from finished, and I'm intrigued to see how this ultimately all plays out. Thanks for joining us here on this edition of Seattle Seahawks Today. For continuing Seahawks coverage, subscribe now for free, youtube.com/SeahawksTV. I'm Tyler Jones. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.